When women dare to fully be themselves, to rise up as the divine beings they are, to operate in their magic, their sexuality, their power, they are always labeled one thing: wicked.
Wicked is a podcast for women who dare to walk in their true identity, power, and magic, who go against societal culture of being seen and not heard, who are the black sheep and powerhouses the structure tries to defeat. And here is your shepherd leading you astray, Mztyk.
This week, I wanted to discuss and kind of stay on the topic in regards to karmic contracts. But I do actually want to move in to relationships. And there's so many ideas out there on soulmates, twin flames. I can't even say that one without laughing. Different ways relationships are supposed to be, becoming everything you want in a relationship, and then that will manifest, how to attract the right lover, all of these different things. And I feel like there's so much that is just patriarchy packaged in a different way, and the title of spirituality is just kind of slapped over it so people accept it, and it's like become the norm now. And through my TikTok research that I've truly, I swore off that app a long time ago. But when I started the podcast, I was like, I might have to get back on this. And in the creatrix circle in the school, I was going back and forth with the ladies of I don't know if I should do this or not. And then I decided that I was going to do it. And, I was challenging them to step out of their comfort zone and, do something that they're uncomfortable with so that they can expand themselves. And I'm like, well, maybe I'll go back on TikTok. I'm just going to do it. I'm bullying these girls into doing it. So I have to do it too, right? So I did it, and wow, I didn't realize what a research haven this would be. I love comment sections. Their algorithm is on point. It is on point. Instagram, you don't got a chance. I don't care how many reels and all these stupid things that Instagram tries to come up with to be a new version of TikTok. They will never be TikTok. The algorithm's on point. And when I go through these comment sections, wow, I really love seeing how people think and the psyche and stuff like that. So being that my last episode, I did more karmic contracts on self. So I just searched the term, I don't even remember what it was. It was women, it was something with women taking care of themselves or something like that. Or, oh man, the videos that started coming up in my feed, awesome. So now this week I did it with relationship advice. Oh, that is something. I paid a lot of attention to the comment section of what women were saying, especially on videos where men were talking and men were giving advice to other men on how to be in a relationship with a woman. Now, a lot of the men that were coming up in my algorithm experience were men that had their heads on straight. And it was interesting, in the comment section, I only saw one or two men commenting, but oh my God, the women commenting, it's the men need to hear this, but it's all the women that are seeing it. And so much of the women were talking about, oh, I hope my partner sees this. I don't even have emotions anymore in my relationship because I've got yelled at so many times for having them. So I don't even bother anymore. Some of them were I have to beg for love. I have to beg for attention. So I don't even bother anymore. And I'm seeing all this, and women don't realize how much they've been groomed to put up with in relationships just to have the status of being in a relationship, because our fear of abandonment runs so fucking deep. And the fear of abandonment, this is actually a reptilian brain thing. So yes, we have social conditioning. Yes, we have childhood conditioning, but our primal survival instinct is to not be abandoned, because if we're abandoned, there is no chance of survival. Humans by nature are communal beings. We rely on each other for survival. If a deer births, is it a fawn? Is that a baby deer? If they birth a baby in the wilderness, but the mother dies, that baby still has chance at survival. It can make some right choices and survive. If a mother leaves a baby in a crib, that baby has zero chance of survival unless the mother is there to take care of it. It cannot survive on its own. So humans automatically are somewhat born with this fear of abandonment. And this is why little kids are easily groomed into doing things a certain way that pleases the adult, because they don't want to be left alone. Instinctually, they know they can't survive without mom. Because of that reptilian factor or survival factor, this is always an underlying thought that we don't even realize, like it's an underlying program that's running that we don't even realize we have. As that's preyed upon in childhood by media, by adults in your life, and then, as you grow and start dating, there gets to be that program starts to kind of take over. And so you'll stick it out in relationships because, you need that relationship for survival. That's what your brain thinks. And, Disney is a classic in this, right? Especially as little girls, we're always bombarded of this idea that Prince Charming is going to come save us. And a lot of little girls that maybe have rougher upbringings, maybe abuse in the home or just unsettling family lives, they have this idea okay, a prince is going to come save me one day. So when they enter into a relationship with a man, they are subconsciously kind of laying that over the man. Oh, here's my savior here's my knight in shining armor. This sets up a dynamic where when this knight in shining armor is anything but, and is actually narcissistic or abusive in some type of way and not taking care of the woman, there's a thing in the minds of females that's subconsciously there that is but this is the person that is supposed to be my hero, my whatever. This is the person that's supposed to take care of me. I can't lose this. But in reality, you would be losing a headache, right? So I'm reading through these comments and I wanted to comment on every single one. Well, why are you still with this person? What are you doing? I started realizing the victim hero mindset is so strong in the patriarchy. I touched on this even in my free birth podcast. Our whole medical system is based on victim savior. Our whole world is based on victim savior. No matter what you are, no matter your race, no matter your gender, the government tells you you're a victim of your race or gender and that they are the savior and can rescue you with laws or government money or whatever it is, that they're there to save you. And the opposite is true. So we have this victim hero dynamic that needs to be removed from the collective, which is going to take, thousands of years. But we can start now on ourselves, right? In all of these comments, yes, I did feel bad for these women, but they're also making a choice to be in this relationship. So how bad can you truly feel for one that is choosing that? And saying there's not a way out is grasping onto the idea that we are a victim at the hands of men still. Back in my grandmother's generation, it's like, women weren't even allowed to work. So how much room did my great grandmother have to leave a man who beat her? None. Like, what was she going to do? Run away with the kids, and she couldn't even speak English. So there's a different dynamic there. There's so much opportunity everywhere. If you're listening to this in the Western world, this is, I can only speak from being an American here. But there's so much available to us. You can't claim victim, and this is why I stay, because you're handing over your power. You're purposely choosing disempowerment. Where there's a will is a way is certainly the case here in the West. One of the dynamics that is trained in the psyche of women is self-abandonment. I mean, religion will teach this a lot. I grew up in Christianity. I studied Christianity before I studied any other religion. And it's really deep in there about women abandoning themselves for the man or for their family or for the church. And it's interesting, you always hear these, she's such an angel. She gives up everything for her family. She is always just giving up all her time for the church. What a sweet woman. She does everything for her husband. She is such a blessing. It's complimented when you abandon yourself, okay? And this is done also outside of religion. I'm not, just picking on religion, but when you're the selfless mother, that's applauded. She gave up her career for her kids, and she is always there, and she cooks dinner, and she does everything for her husband and makes sure everything's good at his business. And it's like applauded, like these things are bragged about. And it teaches that you are a good woman if you put your needs last, if you abandon yourself and your feelings and your tiredness. This is how you are accepted and loved as a woman. So now that fear of abandonment drive that is automatically there takes over. And it's like, well, I need to be this so that I don't get kicked out into the wilderness trying to survive on my own because I can't. So that just kind of naturally takes over. I shared this on Instagram because I don't know why these crazy reels have been popping up. It's like Christian extremists on Instagram, which I didn't even know existed, have randomly been popping up in my feed. And it's interesting because I had a couple people message me saying that they were also getting these types of reels. So there's definitely something going on there right now. But this woman was chastising her own self for saying, I just need a minute, because she couldn't get her baby to take a nap. She's home alone all day taking care of the kids. Her baby wouldn't sleep and wouldn't stop crying. Every time she almost got him to sleep, her toddler would wake him up. And it was this vicious cycle going on for hours. And so she put her older child in their room and asked them to play with their toys and shut the door and said, I just need a minute. And she said that she caught herself and repented of that. And she doesn't need a break. She needs Jesus. And I was so floored, and just, there was no point in me commenting or saying anything. You have to understand, when people come to you for advice, it's one thing because they're willing to listen. To open up a debate, especially on social media with a stranger, you're not going to change their mind. They're knee deep in their beliefs. So no, I'm not going to comment or say anything. I'll make a podcast out of it instead. But I mean, my soul ached for this woman. I could have cried because I know that type of exhaustion. But then to have in my mind that God could be like pointing his finger at me for wanting a break when I'm at a breaking point, that has to be a huge mental load of just, I don't know. I feel like that would make me crack. I feel like that would make me lose it if I thought, my higher power was, chastising that in me or saying that it was wrong for me to be tired. This woman is so deep in self-abandonment that she can't even recognize her need for rest. She's punishing herself for even thinking she could need rest. And when I'm watching this reel, I was like, how far gone are women today in the patriarchy that they literally condemn themselves for just needing a break? It's so toxic. And women are falling apart because of this. Our society is falling apart because of this. Because if women do not have the strength to take care of children and bear the children, and they don't have the support or somebody to take care of them while they're doing this, we simply can't have kids anymore. If you even look back a couple generations, your great-grandma, great-great-grandma, they were having, 10, 15 kids. That's like rare to see today. Most people stop at 2. It's different in each culture. I understand this. Usually the women that have more than 1 or 2 kids is because their culture still believes in family. And the generational line of family is there to help them raise their children. In the West, we're like a giant experiment here. And that is completely shattered and broke apart and on purpose. I really do believe that this is like a science experiment, like a social science experiment. And everybody is very separated right now. Men and women are about to be even more separated because as women are waking up, the men aren't ready to also. Or they're doing it at a slower rate because the system as it is works for them and it doesn't work for the woman. So we are naturally going to wake up quicker. So this idea of soulmate, soul contract, twin flame. Now, let me preface this. This is my opinion. You are free to believe or not believe in what I believe, okay? It doesn't make it more or less true for me how many people agree with me. But as I tell everybody in my school, my job as your teacher is to make you ask yourself lots of questions all the time. I want you to always be questioning yourself and your beliefs so that you can expand. And this is what a lot of people are doing right now. They're holding on to an old world, an old system that no longer works. And what's going to happen is they're going to be prepared for a world that no longer exists because those dynamics no longer work. And as much as we don't want to adapt as things are changing, and they're changing very rapidly right now, you better fucking start or you're going to be left behind. When using terms like soul contract, karmic contract, soulmate, twin flame, these labels have some type of spiritual connotation to it that makes us feel like relationships are some type of like divine oriented thing. And it's either manifesting in your life because you set it up as so in your past life, or because you did some special meditation and attracted some type of person, or they're your soulmate, so you have a soul contract with this person, or the twin flame idea is that your soul is split into another person and you come together, and it's still like the knight in shining armor idea, but the twin flame kind of promotes toxicity on probably the highest level I've ever seen. I don't really, and this isn't something that I started off believing. So, I mean, your beliefs, they damn well better be changeable based on your experience here. I don't think relationships are spiritual to that extent. I think spirituality can occur between two people as they choose each other and choose to expand. But I don't believe that there's these like spiritual things like twin flames and all. I feel like people make this up to feel better about their situations or to feel like they have something special. And people are waiting for their soulmate as if it's going to be like the birth of Jesus Christ, and like they're going to look up in the sky and there's going to be like the stars that point to where he's been born, and you can navigate to them in your spiritual GPS, and there he is. Or he does that to you, right? That's more fairy tale like to me, which is what we are kind of stuck in because of how we were brought up, you know? So let me talk about twin flames really quick to just get that one out of the way, because I don't want to spend any time on that, because like I said, I feel that's the most toxic. So this idea that your soul has somehow split in between two bodies, and then there's a runner, there's someone who always is running from you, or you are always running from them. But when you come together, it's really bad because you bring out the worst in each other. So you keep splitting up and getting back and splitting up and getting back. And then at some point, you guys both decide to do the soul work, and then your souls unify and you become like the resurrection of Jesus Christ. No, I'm just kidding. But like, you know what I'm trying to say. Like you become like some, you help humanity and become one thing, rising your vibration in the vibration of humanity. So this is toxic, and I don't think I've ever seen a couple saying that they're twin flames without there being a toxic dynamic of usually the man running off with another woman constantly, and then when they're back together, he's very verbally or emotionally abusive, and then he runs off with another woman. And then the woman is saying, oh, well, see, he's running because when he's with me, he just has to face his demons and he can't, so he runs. And like this goes on for years. Like, that's probably the most new age spiritual garbage I've ever heard of in my life. And I've never, ever, ever even like thought of that as being a thing. The idea of soulmates and soul contracts. So, I mean, to say past life and any of that, like you can't really prove any of that, right? Yes, you can get readings, and you can, there's stuff in astrology you can kind of get, but again, I think spiritualizing relationships puts a whole other level of things on it that don't really need to be there, that make the relationship more difficult and harder to navigate than it already is. Because if you're having issues and there's things that are very wrong with the relationship, to have in your head, well, this is my soulmate, or we have a soul contract, you're less likely to leave a toxic partner because you're viewing that person through the lens of, this is my soulmate, this is my soul contract. So you're like, you try and white knuckle a relationship that doesn't really belong going on anymore. I think when going into relationships, leaving that shit to the sidelines is a great idea, because what you will find in a relationship is your wounds. And the reason you will find this is because the dynamic of the relationship will have repeating cycles in it based off of what you believe a relationship to be and what they believe a relationship to be. And as women, our wounds are generally, don't have boundaries, pour yourself into a man like unconditionally, check your emotions at the door because you're an over-emotional female. You're expected to take care of just about everything without complaint. The bar for the woman is set insanely high. of the things that she needs to meet to be a good woman. The man by default has a very low bar, very fucking low in our culture today. I see it not just on my TikTok research, but I see it even in social groups in person when it's like, oh, your husband took the kids to the park. And it's like praise. It's like, I take my fucking kids to the park like twice a day, every fucking day. Like, why is that? Oh, your husband's home with the baby so you can get time alone. He ain't a goddamn babysitter. It's the child's father. It's like men are praised for doing bare minimum. And the women who sacrifice their entire life for their children, that's just expected. You don't get praised for that. This is what you do. Now, in a relationship dynamic, there tends to be this cycle that will repeat in all your relationships until you marry one of those cycles. And it's actually up to you to stop those cycles. So if you're a woman that gives and gives and gives, and you never are getting anything in return, you can't call yourself a victim in that manner. That, you know, I give everything until I have nothing and I never get anything back. Because at some point, why didn't you stop giving? What were you afraid of in that moment? Abandonment. But why? What would you be losing? You don't know. There's this idea out there. I hear it in readings all the time. All the time. I have women call me. I'm constantly attracting the wrong man. Why do I always attract emotionally unavailable men? Why do I always attract married men? Why do I always attract... You're not attracting these men. These are just men. It's like 95% of the male population is emotionally unavailable, is cheating, is not in touch with their emotions or their own feminine energies. They don't help around the house. They don't, like, that's the majority of men. It's not that you're attracting the wrong male. It's that you're dating males. I used to believe you attract in, but what I've realized over time is it's not this magical thing of you're attracting. It's that this is the majority, and it's a dynamic that you allow to continue because you self-sacrifice, you give until you have nothing, you're open with your whole heart, and you do all these things that you've been trained to do your whole life. And then the receiving end of that, which men have been trained to do their whole life, is just to receive all that. There's no magical manifesting. It's that this is the male-female dynamic, and you're allowing it to continue in all of your relationships. Go out there and date. When a man starts sending flags that they're emotionally unavailable or you find out they're cheating on someone else, throw them to the curb. The difference in a relationship that works out, because there is no magical manifestation of some person out there that's going to be your everything, and there's going to be no arguments and no fights and no disagreements and no shadow and no wounding and that doesn't exist. So if you're searching for that, you're not going to ever find that. The difference in marriages or relationships that stick together is when two people wake up every day and they choose love and they choose connection. So that means when the fight occurs, or the wife for once is bringing her emotions to the table, the man isn't getting defensive. He's reminding himself in his head, I'm choosing love with this woman. I'm choosing connection. How do I speak through this filter? And when the man comes to the woman about something, she doesn't say, fuck him, I'm going to poison the lasagna tonight. Yes, I'm guilty of these thoughts. She thinks, okay, I love this man. I'm choosing connection. How can I speak with this in mind? Now, most women listening to this podcast are like, yeah, I do that. And I know women do this already because we always want love and connection. That's our default. Men are more in their patriarchal ego, And everything is generally taken as an attack and something they need to defend against. And in their minds, it's like, so what are you saying? I'm not perfect? What are you saying? This is my fault that you're unhappy? So men shut down and then they just retreat. And then you end up stonewalled, or you given the cold shoulder or the silent treatment or other toxic behaviors. The lack of emotional intelligence in men in our culture today is very sad. And it's why I brought it up so much in the podcast of the letter to mothers with sons, because that has to change. And I really applaud the men in our society today. I'm very grateful to know some that are doing the work to change that dynamic and to allow themselves to be emotionally vulnerable and to even realize, hey, we're not attacking you. We are not saying like you're the cause of all my problems. We're saying that this thing doesn't work if you want to keep connection. And that requires you to change. Are you manifesting the same type of man? No. The majority of men are the same. In the relationship, if the same patterns are occurring, it is only because it's the normal dynamic flows of relationships today, but you are not putting up a stop sign. You're saying, keep on going. It's a green light. And so you will do what you are trained to do in your psyche, in your subconscious psyche. You will give and you will forgive, and you will give and you will forgive, and you will give and you will forgive until you are a fucking doormat and have nothing left. All of these women that I see in my TikTok research lab commenting on these posts, I just want to know why they stay. And this is 2023, almost 2024, holy shit. The excuse I'm staying for the kids doesn't work anymore, because why would you stay in a toxic relationship for the kids? You're just teaching them to repeat that relationship, because please, if you think back over your whole life, or maybe even now, all of your relationships at some point or another just reflected the relationships that you saw growing up. The first person you ever love is your father or your mother. And that teaches you how to be in relationships and what to expect for love. So women tend to always be dating their fathers, and men tend to always be dating their mothers on repeat over and over, because they're trying to, they either, you think that that's what love feels like and is because it's what you were exposed to from the person that was supposed to love you first. You will seek that out because you will constantly be trying to fix that relationship subconsciously. So you're always trying to mend it and to fix it and to gain the approval. And all you do in that is more and more self-sabotage and more self-sacrifice, trying to mend something that can't be fixed through somebody else. Instead of repeating these patterns and thinking that you're attracting it in, you're not. Give yourself a break. Don't be so entrenched in patriarchy that you are willing to blame yourself for the behavior of the men in your life. That you will literally say, it's my fault that I'm attracting this type of man in. Instead of just saying, well, I tried with this one. They also are a loser, so I had to leave. And step into your power and realize you have the power to continue this dynamic or not. And a lot of times in relationships, since women are trained to self-sacrifice to the max, we have never really loved ourselves unconditionally or treated ourselves to such a high level that when a man steps into our life and tries to treat us low, that we're like, I don't even treat myself this bad. Why would I stay with you? That's the problem. Women don't want to be by themselves. Well, I'm not saying this is the only reason, but one of the reasons is because the subpar, low bar standard that a man gives them is actually better than they treat themselves when they're alone. The compliment that comes once every 6 months is better than the one compliment a year they give themselves. So in their mind, well, this is better than being alone. My advice to you as a woman to other women is start treating yourself so fucking good. Take yourself out on dates. There is nothing wrong with that. Go with another girlfriend. Treat yourselves. Be at such a high standard with yourself that when you do start dating and getting into relationships, that when a man treats you lower than you treat your own self, you are going to be like, why would I downgrade my life right now? You have to be the victor in your life, not the victim. You are not a victim of any relationship. You are a victim of your own mind because you're taught to be a victim. So it's up to you to change that role in your own mind. You need to unprogram yourself out of the patriarchy. You need to know it is not your fault. You are not attracting the wrong partner. You are just in a cycle that you are unwilling to break out of fear. How do you get over that fear? It's like a muscle that you have to strengthen. You have to just start doing it. You have to work it out. Start treating yourself really fucking good. Make sure that the friends you keep also treat you really fucking good. I have such amazing women in my life right now. Sometimes I sit here and think about it and I'm just like, this is fucking unreal. How did I end up with women in my life like this? But that wasn't always the case. I was alone for a long time. And when I started treating myself a certain way and realized what was happening, and I needed to become to myself the community of women that I wanted, I started just treating myself better. And then I started meeting all of these women, and women that now this is what happened. I didn't attract in some magical beauties on brooms flying to me. I met many women, but women that were two-faced towards me, or talking about things that I didn't really morally align with, or were talking shit about other women, or were just whatever, doing things that I myself wouldn't do to myself. I just didn't continue the friendships. Not out of fear of having no friends. It's just I would rather be alone than have a friend like that. So now I'm left with fucking amazing women. And I feel spoiled rotten with my friends. I really do. I feel like they spoil me. That is what will happen in your love relationships. Date all the people, just like they're friends. If you're single and you're dating, go ahead. Date them. But when they start throwing them flags, don't put on red shades so you can't see it. Be like, you're treating me below how I treat myself. This isn't something that I'm okay with. And you don't view yourself as a failure. Would you view yourself as a failure if it was just a friend? And you were just saying, oh, I can't hang out with this person anymore. She's toxic. But why is it your fault and you're a failure, or you're attracting in the wrong person if it's a lover? Why? Why are you saying that? Oh, again, I attracted in the wrong one, and then it's like heartache. Why? No, you tried. Oh, that one's not a winner. On to the next. Be victorious about it. You're not a victim of shitty men in the society. Like, just don't bother with them. And if you're in a relationship, the one dynamic that you need to look for is, are they choosing love and connection? If they continually choose that and are willing to, if you need to go to therapy, do the therapy, they're willing to change themselves and talk to you and listen to your needs, then that's something to work with. Sure, they can be your soulmate. Sure, you can sign a contract, whatever thing that they say, whatever, like the new spiritual jargon is. They'll come up with a new one next year. Sure, call it that if you want. But all it is like you're either saying yes to patterns or no to patterns every single day. When you wake up in the morning, you're either going to repeat a childhood relationship within your own partnership. You're going to either act like your mother or act like your father. You are going to view them as your mother or your father. It's this constant lens of perception that you're dealing with and defaulting to the program that you were given as a child. And it's up to you to deprogram it. It's not up to anybody else. And when you are trying to reprogram and you fall back into the old program, it's your job to apologize to your partner. But when there's an ebb and flow and a give and take dynamic between both partners, those are the relationships and marriages that will last. Because both partners are committed. I'm committed to love you, and I am also committed to changing myself so that this dynamic can work. It's not some spiritual, relationships can be insanely spiritual because, so like after your child being your biggest gateway to spiritual enlightenment, so are relationships. Sure, you can go be a monk on a mountain and gain all the spiritual enlightenment you want. Put your ass in a relationship. I want to see how enlightened you are. I'm serious. You can be real enlightened by yourself. Now all of a sudden you're dealing with somebody else's karmas and energies and shit, and now you have to start doing what? You have to decide what things about you actually need to change, or especially women, what parts of you actually need to change and what parts of you're just self-sacrificing to preserve something out of fear of loss or abandonment. Some of us don't even have healthy relationships to look up to. Of like, yeah, I want to repeat that. What does that say? What does that say? The people that I know who are old now, in their 70s, they've been married 30, 40, 50 fucking years, stayed with the same partner while they were getting their ass beat, stayed with the same partner while they were beating their kids, stayed through cheating, so all of that. Okay, but they've been together for 65 years. Awesome. They must have had a good soul contract and they signed up for it in this lifetime. Don't think so. There's fear of abandonment. And they most likely also saw these things growing up. And they don't, especially if they've been married that long, the mindset back then was there's no such thing as divorce. The divorce rate is insanely high today. You can blame it on whatever you want, but it's the fact that we can fucking do it. And it's mostly women who initiate divorce. It's mostly the men who are unwilling to change. It's mostly the men who will not listen to the emotions of the female. And it's the men that don't want to work on that dynamic of love and connection. They want to remain as is. And that doesn't work anymore. See, what happened when women's empowerment movement took over, and I hate it too, the fake feminism, right? And that whole feminist movement that like pushed women out of the house and all of this, taught her to hate her kids. While yes, that was a negative thing, everything is for a reason. Because what that now did was allow women to provide for themselves. And so far, what men have taught us is they're only around for paychecks. And now that we've moved into this weird part of society where even in married relationships, men want 50-50 with the bills, but then don't help around the house, women have now realized, well, we can do all the things men can do. So why would I put up with this shit when I can just be by myself, provide for myself, and still take care of the kids, take care of the house? They've basically taught us we don't need them. If anything, they just drag us down. Because that's why when there's a breakup, women go through a glow up. Men don't. The glow up happens because literally a leech was sucking the life out of you and now it's not anymore. You're losing blood. So naturally your color comes back. Usually when the breakup happens, the men go down the fucking toilet and they're a mess. Oh, I have seen some some relationships fall apart and oh my God, I don't even recognize the man 2-3 years later. Like, wait, that was him? Oh my God. And then they'll just find another thing to leech off of. Women will reach a point where it's the point of no return. And since we were taught we don't need men, we literally don't. So we get a divorce. Eventually, because right now, what I'm seeing in lab TikTok is men are the majority, literally 90%, at least in my algorithm. It seems to me the majority are really hanging out of that old program and are refusing to change. The women are like, fine, see ya. So like there is this dynamic happening right now. I think that eventually it's going to catch up because everything serves its purpose. As women hold themselves to higher standards with even how they treat their own self, okay, putting themselves first and then the kids. I know, I hate hearing it too, but you can't feed from an empty cup. We're still trying to be Jesus over here and feed, thousands of people with a fish and 2 loaves of bread. You can't do that. That's the whole other thing with the martyr complex. Like that whole myth is to basically teach scapegoat and then victim, martyr, hero mindset. I can do a whole podcast on that. It'll be pretty cool. We cannot be there for our children how we need to be and show up for them how we need to be if we ourselves are on empty. There is no trophy for running yourself into the fucking ground. And you need to make choices and changes in your life to reflect that, as hard as it may be, because it is literally in your psyche through patriarchy, through your upbringing, that the woman must sacrifice all. Choosing love and connection with your kids in that relationship dynamic doesn't mean you give up all. It doesn't mean you stop taking care of yourself. It doesn't mean you have to punish yourself for needing a break. Take care of yourself. When you start taking care of yourself and not putting yourself last in all situations, and you start valuing your emotions, valuing your own opinions, valuing your own treatment, when you enter into a relationship, you will not stay with someone for 1, 2, 3, 5 years before breaking it off when you're receiving subpar treatment in those areas. You won't do it anymore because you have built your own self up and you won't want to come down from that. You have to be asking yourself all the time, why am I afraid to let go? What is this relationship really giving me right now that I'm afraid to let it go? It's not I'm attracting wrong. It's not some magical contract like in The Little Mermaid that you sign and it's unbreakable unless it's by Ursula. It's breakable at any time. As soon as you decide that it's not going to continue, you just say that and you walk away. Because however many times you bounce back and forth in the relationship, on again, off again, and then label it a twin flame, you're just encouraging your own cycles that you have a fear of breaking out of. And it sounds comforting to call them something spiritual like that. Or I want to say something magical like that because it's not spiritual. You want to give it a magical name so that you can stay comforted in your own misery because it's all you've ever known. You're basically just repeating the past and placing it on the future. And you're in this hamster wheel over and over and over again because it's all that you know and it's all that you were taught. And it's toxic, but it's comfortable because it's what you know. Humans have fear of the unknown. It's scary. So when you do it different, there's the same fear there that there is of fear of abandonment because it's about survival. Step into that unknown. Step out of your comfort zone. Say no. That you're not going to keep repeating those patterns and labeling it some magical thing. When we start raising the bar, that's when men will have to meet that bar. A lot of them are going to be stuck in the, fuck you, I'm not changing. You need to lower yourself to me. Just keep saying no thanks and moving on. Because eventually we'll reach a point in our society that they're going to automatically be called up. And the ones that don't will just be alone and they'll eventually die. So it doesn't matter. That's life cycle. I'm not saying I'm wishing death. Hello, people die. These are world cycles, right? World cycles. I mean, thousands of years of cycles that repeat themselves on and off. If as women, we want that bar raised on men, we're the only ones that are going to do that. Because over the last hundreds and hundreds of years, we've taught them that what they're doing right now is okay. And that we'll accept it because we just want to be loved. And we just want that one compliment our quarterly compliment. Demand something more than that and you'll eventually get it, because there are men out there that will give you what it is that you want in a relationship. And then you will be able to be in your softness and in your feminine. You eventually meet them not because you've attracted them in, but because you've done such a good job at weeding the garden. You finally got to the rose. But you're not going to do that by being a good girl and a yes, sir. You're going to do that by being wicked.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you want to learn how to become even more wicked, check out School of the Mystical Arts, where you will find me daily teaching and connecting. Be part of a community filled with other badass women supporting each other and manifesting their dreams. SchoolofTheMysticalArts.com. A link to a 3-day free trial is in the show notes. I'll see you there.